I recently had a run-in with an overzealous HOA neighbor who decided my vintage Camaro was an eyesore in our perfect little suburb. What started as nitpicky complaints spiraled into a full-blown vendetta. He tried to get my car banned, tampered with, and even stolen. But he didn't count on my grandmother stepping in with a vengeance. Let me take you back to the beginning. When my wife, Emily, and I moved into our new home, it felt like a dream come true. After years in tiny apartments, we finally had a house with a garage, a driveway, and room to stretch out. The neighborhood was quiet, almost too perfect, with manicured lawns and predictable routines. We had no clue one neighbor would turn our paradise into a battlefield. For the first few days, we were busy unpacking and settling in, but my pride and joy, a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro, was the real star of the show. This car wasn't just a ride, it was a passion project. I'd spent years restoring it, tweaking every detail, from the glossy black paint to the 350 cubic inch V8 engine purring under the hood. That first weekend, I rolled up the garage door, turned the key, and let the Camaro roar to life. The deep, throaty rumble shook the air, a sound that made my heart race. I was lost in the moment, grinning like a kid, until I noticed someone watching. Across the street stood Mark, a neighbor I'd barely met. Arms crossed, jaw tight, he glared like I'd just set off a bomb. I brushed it off, maybe he wasn't a car guy. But when I took the Camaro for a quick spin, his scowl followed me down the street. Pulling back into my driveway, I found him waiting, hands on his hips like he owned the place. "Hey," he barked. "Mind keeping that thing quieter? Some of us like peace and quiet." I was caught off guard but stayed polite. "Sorry, didn't mean to bother anyone. Just testing her out." He snorted. "Maybe get something less obnoxious. Something that fits the neighborhood." I forced a smile, biting back a retort. "I'll keep that in mind." Shutting the garage door, I felt a knot in my gut. Emily, watching from the porch, raised an eyebrow. "What was that about?" "Meet our HOA watchdog," I muttered. She groaned, sensing trouble brewing. I told myself Mark was just a grump who'd get over it. I was wrong. The next morning, a white envelope with the HOA's logo sat in my mailbox. My stomach sank as I tore it open. A formal noise complained about my Camaro, claiming it violated the neighborhood's peaceful environment. Failure to comply could mean fines or worse. Emily peeked over my shoulder. "Let me guess. Mark." "Who else?" I growled. I knew car guys could ruffle feathers, but this felt personal. I hadn't even been here a week, and Mark was already gunning for me. I decided to confront him. Crossing the street, I found him tending his flawless lawn, smirking as I approached. "Got your HOA letter," I said, keeping my cool. A heads-up would have been nice. He shrugged, smug. "Nothing personal. Just keeping things civil." "Civil?" I raised an eyebrow. "The car's not that loud. It's a hobby, not a nuisance." His smirk widened. "A hobby, huh? Look, I've restored cars myself. Real classics. That Camaro? It's wasted on you. If it were mine, I'd keep it out of sight, show some respect." The way he said mine sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't about noise. He wanted my car. "So, what? You take it off my hands?" I asked, half laughing. He spread his arms. "If you're tired of HOA fights, I could make an offer." My fists clenched. This was a shakedown. Mark was weaponizing the HOA to pressure me into selling cheap. "Thanks, but she's staying put," I said, walking away. His jaw twitched. He wasn't used to losing. Emily met me on the porch. "That bad?" "Worse," I said. "He's after the Camaro." I glanced at Mark's house, dread creeping in. This was just the start. A few days later, I noticed something off. My garage door wouldn't close right. Closer inspection revealed scratches near the lock. My blood ran cold. "Someone tried to break in," I told Emily. Her eyes widened. "Mark." I didn't want to believe it, but the timing was too perfect. That night, I installed a motion-activated camera. If Mark was this bold, he'd try again. Sure enough, at 2 a.m., my phone pinged, motion detected. The live feed showed Mark sneaking toward my garage, crowbar in hand. My heart pounded. This wasn't HOA games anymore. This was criminal. Before I could call the cops, another figure appeared on screen, my grandmother, Helen, in her bathrobe, clutching a baseball bat. She'd gotten the same alert and, instead of staying safe, went full vigilante. Mark, oblivious, fumbled with the lock until Helen tapped his shoulder with the bat. He froze, turning to face a 75-year-old woman ready to swing. Need something, honey? Helen asked, voice dripping venom. Mark stumbled back. I was just breaking in. She gripped the bat tighter. What's the plan? Steal the car and blame the HOA. I wasn't, he stammered. Save it. Helen snapped. Then, in a move I'll never forget, she swung the bat at his knee. Mark yelped, collapsing, crawling away in panic. Next time, I aim higher, she called as he fled. Helen knocked on the garage door. Come out, kid. Emily and I stepped outside, jaws dropped. Grandma, you hit him? I asked. She shrugged. Just a love tap. Emily stifled a laugh. He's never living this down. I grinned, but worry lingered. He'll probably call the HOA again. Helen smirked. Let him try. The next morning, Mark limped to the HOA office, no doubt spinning a tale of victimhood. By afternoon, another letter arrived. Not just a complaint, but a notice demanding my Camaro's removal as a nuisance vehicle. Rage boiled inside me. He's trying to steal it legally now, I told Emily. She frowned. Can they do that? Not if I fight back. That night, I pored over the HOA bylaws, uncovering a jackpot. The HOA couldn't label a car a nuisance unless it was abandoned or broken. My Camaro was neither. Plus, only the board could decide, not one vengeful neighbor. Best of all, Mark wasn't even on the board. He'd been kicked off years ago for abusing his power. He'd banked on me not checking. At the HOA office, I laid out my case to Lisa, the receptionist. She sighed, scanning my evidence. Mark's been a headache forever. This notice shouldn't have gone out. Then void it, I said. Done, she replied. Just then, Mark burst in, face red. What's he doing here, he demanded. Proving you're full of it, I shot back. Lisa stamped void on the notice, and Mark's jaw dropped. You can't. He's breaking rules, he sputtered. Lisa cut in. You have no authority, Mark. Defeated, he stormed out, slamming the door. Victory felt sweet, but I knew he wasn't done. Sure enough, days later, I got a summons to an HOA board meeting to address community violations. Mark had rallied the board for one last shot. Emily frowned. He's desperate. Then let's end this, I said. Helen overheard, standing up. You're not going alone. Grandma, it's just a meeting. And I'm just an old lady, she quipped. Let's go. The clubhouse was packed, Mark smirking at the front with a stack of papers. The president, Susan, opened the meeting. We're here about a disruptive vehicle. Mark jumped up. That Camaro's a nuisance. I've tried resolving this peacefully, but the owner's defiant. I started to speak, but Helen leaned forward. By peacefully, you mean fake complaints and sneaking around with a crowbar? The room went silent. Mark paled. I never. Don't lie, Helen said, nodding to me. I held up my phone, showing the footage of Mark's break-in attempt. Gasps echoed. Even Susan looked shocked. Mark flailed. That's not the point. The car's too loud. Which rule says that? Helen asked sweetly. I flipped open the bylaws. Nothing bans classic cars or noise within legal limits. Susan sighed. Mark, is this true? His silence was deafening. Helen pressed. You're harassing my grandson because you want his car. Murmurs spread. Mark turned to Susan. You can't ignore this. We're not, Susan said coldly. We're addressing you. Your complaints are baseless, and your actions are disruptive. We'll discuss your role here next. Mark froze, humiliated. Grabbing his papers, he stormed out to scattered applause. Neighbors shook my hand, whispering relief at Mark's downfall. Susan apologized. He's been a problem too long. Helen grinned. Took care of that, didn't I? The next day, Mark got his own HOA letter, stripped of all influence. He was powerless. That night, we celebrated with a barbecue, neighbors toasting to freedom from Mark's tyranny. As the sun set, I tossed Helen the keys. Take her for a spin. Her eyes lit up. She fired up the Camaro, its roar echoing as she cruised past Mark's house, his curtains twitching. Justice never sounded sweeter. What do you think? Was Helen's bat-swinging justice too far, or did Mark deserve it? Drop your thoughts in the comments and share your take on handling nosy neighbors or HOA drama. Hit that like button if you love this story, and subscribe for more real-life showdowns. Let's keep the conversation going.